Hello, this is Wes Bridel, and this is another Kingdom Calling Economic Update video. This one we're going to focus on gold and silver. All of these videos are follow-ups to the coming storm. You can watch that video for free. There's a link right next to this video. That is really a lot more important than any of these updates because it gives you the big picture of what's going on in our world and our economy. And really, these things are going to affect you if you're not prepared. They're going to affect you no matter what. But this will help you get a little bit prepared for these things. These videos are just what's been going on the last month in gold and silver, and it has been a ride on a rocket ship. Gold is hitting new highs every other day for the past month. Silver's about the same. In gold, it's all-time highs. In silver, the market briefly shot up to 50 in 1980. And so we're still well below that, but we're at 30-year highs in silver, and it's run up even more than gold. It's been pretty spectacular. So I want to talk about what's going on out there. The bullion banks, JP Morgan being the biggest one, have been, if you've seen, we've talked about this a lot before, but they've been manipulating the gold and silver, but particularly silver markets for a decade plus. And what they can do, because they have more money in that market than anyone else, when the market runs up, they start selling, and they sell the market harder. Anyone who comes in and wants to buy, they have a selling bid to match up with it. And they have more, so that they knock off all the buyers until they can hit the price to make it go really low. You can see all this on the Commitment of Traders report. It's public information. They push it down really low, and then once the market gets low, they turn around and start buying. So they've shorted it. They sold when it was high, and then they turn around and buy when it's low. And it's been very profitable for years and years and years. However, if you go back and look at what happened 10 years ago in London, England had to sell all their gold in order to bail out the bullion banks, because the governments like the bullion banks doing this because it keeps gold and silver low and therefore helps keep their currencies high, which they have the printing press control over. So it works until it doesn't work anymore, and it kind of appears, it's too early to say for sure, but last week when gold is hitting all-time highs and silver is hitting 30-year highs, you would think, because most commentators are saying, oh, this is for sure a top because it's gold and silver are overbought. Well, the bullion banks were actually closing their shorts and actually going long at this peak. This might be a sign that the markets are going to take off tremendously more than they have. You know, we don't know for sure. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but their behavior in this instance is very different than it's always been. The difficult thing for them is they are short massive amounts of particularly silver, but gold as well, in order to suppress it. They have to close those positions out at some point, and it's how do they do it without, you know, going under? I don't know. It's kind of it's basically impossible. But their actions are changing, and it might be that they no longer can control the market. They just don't have enough money as the rest of the market, and they're capitulating. And that could be an explosive thing. We've talked about this before. It would come someday. I would expect if it truly came for sure and they absolutely capitulated, the prices would rocket to just unbelievable numbers. So it hadn't happened yet, but it looks like we might be going down that road finally. Europe's central banks have halted all gold sales. They finally got smart and said, hey, we're not being very effective at controlling the price, and we don't want to get rid of any more of our gold. So they've stopped selling. As far as the U.S. Mint, Silver Eagle prices, the wholesale prices increased from $1.50 to $2 a coin. So if you were able to buy silver over the past few months at $2 spread or under, congratulations. Now no one can do that, even if you're a dealer. Gold American Buffaloes were discontinued. So as soon as they did that, the premium for those shot up. Goldman raises their forecast to $16.50 in the next 12 months because of quantitative easing. So, you know, they're right. It's a little scary to be on the right side of them because typically they're doing one thing with their book and they're giving clients different information. Could be the sign of a short-term top. But in the end, of course, they're right. Gold's going much higher. Fed Chair Ben Bernanke once said that Roosevelt's 40% dollar devaluation. So if you remember, they confiscated Americans' gold and then they devalued the dollar compared to gold. he said that that was an effective weapon against deflation. So there's some theory out there that the U.S. might actually have called the dogs off with the bullion banks letting the prices run up because they feel like it would be effective for them to start having more inflation. So it's an interesting theory. They need it to fall further because, again, as we talked about in the past video, there's no way they can pay off their debts without the dollar being worth less. So they need that to happen, certainly. The silver manipulation, Bart Chilton, this is a very interesting update. He's the CFTC commissioner. If you remember, we talked about a lot in March, the big hearing that the CFTC had about this silver manipulation that I just mentioned. Well, nothing's really happened. Well, Bart Chilton, he seems to be the good guy on the commission. He seems to be getting kind of antsy, and he said, I think the public deserves some answers in the very near future. He says, I don't know, he says within a couple weeks maybe the commissioners will come out and speak about this. He said, I can't say for sure what the commission is going to say, but he's found out a lot by investigating the matter because he's on the commission. He says, if they don't say something soon, I'm going to speak out because the public deserves to know. That's a pretty powerful thing. Silver could be going much, much higher if this all comes out. Alan Greenspan recently said, fiat money has no place to go but gold. That's a pretty powerful statement from the man who was into quite a lot of money printing. Fiat money has no place to go but gold. So the US dollar is fiat money. Every currency in the world today is fiat money. It's not backed by anything. That's what that means. So Alan Greenspan says it has no place to go but gold. If all currencies are going up or down together, the question is relative to what? Gold is the canary in the coal mine. It signals problems with respect to currency markets. Central banks should pay attention to it. Alan Greenspan was actually a really brilliant man. Before he became Fed chairman, he spoke a lot about gold. He wrote about it. Brilliant man. He became Fed chairman. He started doing things that were totally against what he had always talked about before. And in another recent comment, he said the reason for that was American people want their welfare. We need to print more money than we have, so this is what the American people want, so this is what I did. I guess excuse or whatever. It's put us in this bind that we're in now. But interesting that now that he's not in charge of anything anymore, he's going back and saying some really real things, and it's this type of things that we're talking about here. Meanwhile, in a Financial Times editorial, Ted Truman says the U.S. should sell their gold. He came out in a FT editorial and had a ridiculous thing. This worked, Gordon Brown's in deep trouble for doing this in England, and 10 years later he says America should do it. And he says if he does this, it will be able to pay off 2.25% of America's GDP, or debt, which is kind of the same number right now, and that would be really helpful, and I think we'd save $15 billion a year in interest. Well, the screwy thing he's not thinking about is if the U.S. is the biggest holder of gold, supposedly, if we truly have it, in the world, and that's one reason the world feels comfortable lending us money. If we no longer had any gold, then it's 100% our full faith and credit, our words, which our words don't mean very much if you look at the way we run our books. They're empty words. If the world didn't have that, they would surely charge us a much higher interest rate. It would be the most foolish thing ever to do to eliminate 2% of our debt. He says, but the scary thing is, Jim Rickards mentioned the fact that this isn't some quack. This is let's see, he was a former Secretary, U.S. Treasurer. He's in a powerful think tank. Rickards said this guy is a serious man. He's into the Fed talks. He knows what the central bankers are talking about. And he says a gold standard is not even considered. Well, that's a kind of a scary thing that the people running things aren't looking at. The one thing that has worked in the past is not even being considered by the world leaders right now. That's a scary fact. Gada pointed out an interesting theory that there's many people that believe that, yes, we do not own the gold that we say we own, the 80, 100 tons, whatever it is. And if that's the case, and the Fed has admitted in the past that there are swap agreements against the gold, but they will not let anybody look at the gold or in any way see if we truly have what we have. They're hiding something. And so if that's the case, Gada's thinking is that this comment was put out to put the idea that we're selling it on purpose instead of being found out later that whoops, it's all gone and we lied to the American people. Interesting theory. I have no idea. But I hope this helps catch you up on gold and silver. I hope you are certainly holding gold and silver in your own portfolio, because that could be the only money you end up having. If things go worst case scenario, I don't know if they will or they won't. They might. There's certainly a lot of ways you can go right now, but I want you to be prepared. Again, if you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, please watch it. If you have any questions for me, feel free to holler out. Thanks, and God bless you.